married Natalie Wood twice.
I did.
Why did we do that?
I don't know, but isn't it great? When that accident happened, there wasn't anything left to say.
Are you familiar with the circumstances behind Natalie Wood's untimely demise in 1981? Under strange circumstances, she perished while on the boat with her husband, Robert Wagner. Investigations into this tragedy, which have focused on Wagner's version of events that night, have continued for years. The public is still curious and haunted by the unanswered questions about her death, which illustrate the tragic convergence of stardom, tragedy, and mystery. The unanswered questions that persist underneath the glitz and glamour of Hollywood are vividly brought to light in this story. Natalia Nikolaevna Zakharenko was born to Russian immigrants in San Francisco in 1938, hoping for a better life in America. Natalie Wood was born in San Francisco. An indisputable spark, a growing talent that surfaced in Natalia as early as the age of 4, launched her on an amazing trajectory of stardom and mystery from the very beginning. Even though she was just a little girl when she began acting, her iconic 1947 part in the beloved Christmas classic Miracle on 34th Street showcased her irresistible charisma and grace. Few people can gracefully make the leap from child genius to teen celebrity, but Natalie Wood achieved it. Her 1955 role in Rebel Without a Cause, co-starring James Dean, was a watershed moment that catapulted her into the spotlight and made her an iconic figure, representing the anger and defiance of teenage girls throughout the world. With tenacity and flexibility, Natalie overcame the obstacles she encountered on her way from adolescent star to successful adult film actress. Her remarkable portrayal of Deanie Loomis, a girl entangled in social and psychological upheaval in 1961's Splendor in the Grass, demonstrated her capacity to explore nuanced emotional landscapes. This part not only showcased Wood's ability to deal with nuance and complexity, but it also garnered her critical praise and an Oscar nomination, confirming her depth and range as an actor. Wood's 1961 appearance in the legendary musical West Side Story was another high point in her career. A Puerto Rican immigrant entangled in a sad love tale, she played the part of Maria. Her incredible singing and dancing abilities were on full display in this film. With her delicate and tragic performance as Maria, she solidified her position as a multi-talented actress and garnered a Golden Globe nomination. As her career evolved, Natalie Wood became known for her ability to effortlessly switch gears between roles. The Academy and the Golden Globes both nominated her for their recognition of her exceptional acting skills, which she used to convincingly portray a wide range of roles. In the middle of her career triumphs and the love of her admirers, Natalie Wood's life was about to undergo a transformation that would be surrounded by intrigue and dark clouds for the rest of time. Although Natalie Wood's life was full of the glamour of Hollywood, it was also defined by private problems that nobody really knew about. She struggled with depression and alcoholism outside of the limelight as coping mechanisms for the emotional burden of her profession and personal life. There were several obstacles on Wood's path to prominence. She was put under the strains of fame from an early age due to her sudden rise to prominence. Her performance in Rebel Without a Cause was a watershed point in her career, propelling her to critical praise and an Academy Award nomination. But getting this part was a nightmare of exploitation, just like it was for a lot of young girls back then in Hollywood. Relationships with Wood that were frequently in the news further impacted his personal life. Instances like her youthful flirtation with Frank Sinatra illustrate the complexity of her early encounters in the profession. Because of her early age, her mother's goals kept this connection hidden, which added another layer of secrecy and hardship to her already difficult existence. Wood was also haunted by a horrific attack that happened when she was 16 years old, which caused her immense anguish and terror. A secret scar that Wood carried with her was the fact that the authorities were never notified of the incident, which was supposedly carried out by a major Hollywood person. This tragedy had a deep emotional impact on her, which exacerbated her mental health issues and drug dependency. Marriage to Robert Wagner was only one of the many obstacles that Wood had to overcome while navigating her professional and personal life. The popular storybook relationship was not perfect and had its share of problems. After years of infidelity and the stresses of fame, Wood began to rely more and more on sleeping drugs to get through the night. She relied on medicine as a way to deal with the stress in her personal relationships and the responsibilities of her job. In the middle of all the glitter and glamour of Hollywood, what happens when a movie star discovers love? The story of Natalie Wood's private life was one of passion, complexities, and mystery. Actor Robert Wagner was her initial encounter with marriage. Both the public and the press were enthralled by the 1957 wedding that the two celebrities initially shared. Their love story was so Hollywood perfect that it seemed like something out of a fairy tale. But there were also some low points in their story, as there are in many Hollywood love stories. Divorce was finalized in 1962 when the marriage encountered difficulties. Unfortunately, their narrative did not come to a close like that. Even in the enigmatic realm of Hollywood, can love triumph over all? In 1972, Robert Wagner and Natalie Wood were married again after rekindling their love and reconnecting with one another. With the expectation of finally finding the love they had been searching for, the couple's second marriage brought the promise of a new beginning. Richard Gregson, a British producer, was another unexpected turn in Natalie Wood's romance story. In 1969, this unique romance swiftly evolved into marriage. It was an opportunity for Wood to investigate love outside of the Hollywood bubble. By going on an expedition with Gregson, she left her comfort zone and immersed herself in a new culture. In the midst of her hectic career and complicated love relationships, Natalie Wood also became a mother. When she and Robert Wagner had their first child, a girl named Natasha, in 1970, it was the start of a new chapter in her life. Becoming a mother gave her life meaning and purpose beyond her work in Hollywood, enriching her lifestyle with depth and fulfillment. Another daughter, Courtney, was born to Wood and Wagner in 1974. They had a one-of-a-kind dynamic at home in Hollywood due to the constant demands of their jobs and the pleasures and sorrows of parenting. There was potential and satisfaction in Natalie Wood's life, but it would all be ruined by the terrible events of that fateful night, leaving her legacy shrouded in mystery and intrigue. How can a seemingly normal evening on a yacht become a terrifying mystery? As the yacht Splendor set sail on the shimmering seas off Catalina Island on the evening of November 28, 1981, an aura of mystery and fascination pervaded the atmosphere. This 60-foot yacht, Splendor, set the setting for a chilling mystery that altered the course of events surrounding Natalie Wood's life and death. Three people, yacht captain Dennis Davern, actress Christopher Walken, Natalie Wood, and her husband Robert Wagner were on board, and their presence would soon become forever tied to this enigma. It was a gathering characterized by underlying tension, but the trio's presence brought an aspect of celebrity gloss to the setting. Natalie Wood's lifelong dread must be explored in order to comprehend what happened that tragic night. She supposedly had a terrifying prophecy given by a gypsy psychic when her mother took her to see her as a little girl. According to Natalie's mother, the psychic warned her that her daughter would face a watery demise in the future, a destiny connected to the element that Natalie drew the most terror from. After that, Natalie couldn't get water out of her mind. Maria Zakharenko, her mother, took the prophecy very seriously and made her daughter extremely afraid of water. She was always afraid to be near water. Therefore, her dread of the water followed her around her whole life. Then, isn't it strange that a breathtakingly beautiful actress succumbed to the same thing she had dreaded? Did something more nefarious happen? Or was this just a quirk of fate? The mood on board the Splendor became more fraught as the night progressed. Later on, conflicting versions of what happened in the hours preceding up to Natalie Wood's disappearance surfaced, shrouding those hours in mystery. However, we do know that Wood disappeared without a trace in the early hours of November 29, 1981, when the yacht Splendor drifted off Catalina Island. The public's fascination in the details surrounding her disappearance remains unsatisfied. The initial inquiries into Wood's disappearance were carried out with haste, but the results failed to clear the air of intrigue. The events of that tragic night would be investigated later on, but in those early minutes it seemed like the case was solved. What actually transpired that evening aboard the Splendor, and is there more going on here than what we can see? There will always be unsolved mysteries surrounding the mysterious end to Natalie Wood's life on the night of November 29, 1981. Her lifeless body washed ashore after a turbulent night on the boat Splendor, close to Catalina Island in California. Despite the initial determination that her death was unintentional, discrepancies in witness statements and new information led to a re-evaluation of the events leading up to her passing. The relationship between Wagner and Wood was notoriously troubled, marked by passionate love and fierce conflict. Their marriage, which included a split and a reconciliation, was frequently the focus of curiosity from the general public. Everyone on the Splendor seemed to have been on edge the night she vanished. In his memoir, Pieces of My Heart, published in 2008, Wagner detailed a disagreement about the acting profession that caused Wood to retire to her cabin. Meanwhile, the feud between Wagner and Walken persisted. Christopher Walken, an actor who was also on the boat, however, presented a different image, implying that the argument that night was minor. Wagner said that after he and Walken kept talking into the night, Wood went back to their cabin at about 10:45 p.m. Wagner discovered Wood and the dinghy missing when he subsequently checked the cabin. Consequently, a search was launched, and the next morning, the unfortunate body of Wood was discovered. Nevertheless, this story made many wonder, especially because Wood is notoriously afraid of water. She probably wouldn't go out in a dinghy by herself, especially at that hour of night. The first official cause of death for Wood was listed as accidental drowning. However, the autopsy showed that she had suffered many bruises on her arms and a cut on her left face. At first, the coroner said they were superficial and probably received as the victim was drowning. Years later, though, the case was revisited, and it was argued that the injuries could have happened before Wood got in the water. More questions about her death's cause of death arose after this discovery. At first, the story of an accidental drowning was backed by Dennis Davern, the yacht skipper. Things were already problematic before he admitted in 2011 that he had left out important information on what happened that night. He said that a horrible, horrible fight ensued upon returning to the boat after supper ashore, driven by Wagner's envy of Walken, whom he believed was involved with Wood. A wine bottle was broken on the table by Wagner as his rage reached a boiling point, according to Davern. It was during this confrontation that, according to Davern, Wood vanished. According to Davern's updated comments, Wagner's involvement following Wood's disappearance was more complicated than first thought. Davern claims that Wagner called a meeting of Walken and himself just after Wood fell overboard and said, "This will be our story," suggesting that the events leading up to Wood's disappearance were purposefully orchestrated. Wagner is also allegedly involved in efforts to conceal the inquiry into Wood's death, which further complicates an already confusing issue. After considering what happened and Wagner's actions after the incident, Davern came to the belief, which he maintained for years afterward, that Wagner was to blame for Wood's death. Marilyn Wayne, a crucial witness who was on a boat nearby, said that she overheard a woman pleading for help at about 11 o'clock in the evening. At first, the harbor master thought it was all a joke since another boat was having a party, but she remembered saying, "Somebody please help me, I'm drowning." As a result, her request remained ignored. Wagner allegedly delayed to activate the yacht's floodlights or summon assistance until after 1:30 in the morning, which was in direct contradiction to his account. The mystery surrounding Wood's death was intensified by the conflicting testimonies, the long delay in responding to distress calls, and the content of the conflicts that took place on board. The shifting narratives and the unwillingness to seek help right away both added to the unsolved enigma. These factors combined to produce a story full of conjecture and mysteries, even if we still don't know what happened aboard the Splendor. The enigma was deepened by Davern's change of heart on what happened that night. The fact that, after much thought and deliberation over many years, he came to the conclusion that Wagner was really guilty for Wood's murder, further complicated matters. Concerns over potential motivations and measures used to conceal the truth were heightened when allegations appeared that Wagner may have sought to maintain a low profile in the investigation into Wood's murder. One of the most important factors in resolving the mystery surrounding Natalie Wood's murder was the 6-year research conducted by author Samuel Perroni. New material and testimony found by Perroni's study cast doubt on the earlier investigation's conclusions. Wagner, Walken, and Davern were all on the boat, but their respective stories differed, and his research revealed a complex network of connections and hidden agendas. Fresh evidence brought to light a number of important aspects that had been glossed over in the first probe. The injuries sustained by Wood, which included a scrape in the middle of her throat, tardieu petechiae on her lungs, and many bruises, all pointed to a more aggressive situation than a drowning tragedy. Another point of contention was the original autopsy's omission of some pieces of forensic evidence, such as fingernail clippings and scrapings. In addition, author Suzanne Finstad's new biography of Wood, which included additional material indicating that her drowning was not accidental, shed light on the re-examination of Wood's death. As part of his inquiry, Finstad obtained the Murder Book, the official log of a homicide case, and used it to piece together what happened over Wood's final weekend. The evidence she uncovered suggests that Wagner was involved, as he refused to look for Wood for a long time after she vanished from their boat. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office issued a substantial modification to Wood's death certificate in 2012 among these disclosures. Originally listed as accidental drowning, the cause of death was later revised to drowning and other undetermined factors, reflecting the increasing lack of clarity regarding the circumstances surrounding Wood's demise. The inclusion of other undetermined factors led investigators to speculate that her drowning may have had other causes that were either overlooked or under-investigated during the first probe. Formerly a closed case, Wood's death is now the topic of active research and conjecture due to the reopening of the case and the change in the cause of death. Was there more going on than just a tumble into the water? This led to important inquiries. Was there anyone else who may have played a role in what happened to her? After the government changed its position on her death, speculation about her cause of death began, touching on topics as diverse as carelessness and even foul play. Still, nothing came out that may explain Natalie Wood's tragic death, and the mystery continues unsolved. Even in the bright lights of Hollywood, there are still unexplained occurrences that cast a shadow on the life and work of a famous person. The mystery surrounding her death is a sobering reminder of this. Having gone from being a distraught widower to a person of interest, Robert Wagner, Natalie Wood's husband, became an important character in the revived inquiry into her murder. His unwillingness to interact with investigators and shifts in his story were two of the many indicators that he had changed roles in the case. There have been contradictions found in Wagner's narratives of what happened leading up to Wood's 1981 disappearance and drowning. Wagner started by describing an altercation that had place aboard the boat Splendor between himself, Wood, and Christopher Walken, an actor. Wagner claims that after the disagreement, Wood went to her cabin, and he didn't find out she was gone until much later. The investigators did notice, nevertheless, that Wagner's explanation changed as the investigation progressed and did not match the testimony of other witnesses. This inconsistency prompted inquiries on his role and his knowledge beyond what he had disclosed. Wagner was of special interest to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, who restarted the inquiry in 2011. According to Department Lieutenant John Carina, Wagner was probably the last person to see Wood alive. Wagner may have changed his tale over time, as his accounts differed from those of other witnesses, as pointed out by Carina. The discrepancy between Wagner's and other people's versions of events added to the air of secrecy about Wood's death. Detective Ralph Hernandez said the new bruises found on Wood's post-mortem looked like those of a victim of attack, which investigators emphasized. The story that Wood's death was an accident became even more convoluted when this physical proof was presented. The authorities still haven't proven whether her death was accidental or a murder, despite these suspicions. The fact that Wagner has been silent since the matter was reopened further raises suspicions. He was regarded by the authorities to possess important undisclosed information. Therefore, their lack of cooperation was taken seriously. Notably, Wagner was not officially designated as a suspect but as a person of interest, suggesting that the inquiry was actively pursuing any more information he may supply. There are a lot of hypotheses and ideas surrounding Natalie Wood's death, and each one has its own proof to back it up. According to one hypothesis, Wood's demise was caused by a terrible accident. According to the initial autopsy, Wood might have fallen overboard while trying to get on the dinghy since she had many bruises on her arms and a cut on her face. At first, the coroner's office classified her death as an accidental drowning, lending credence to the theory that Wood could have fallen into the ocean while attempting to retrieve the dinghy. But this explanation has been called into doubt because of the actress's well-known dread of dark seas and because her corpse was discovered in an odd state, clad in a nightgown, down jacket, and socks, which did not appear appropriate for someone trying to operate a dinghy. Another possible explanation is on an escalating argument between Wood, Wagner, or Walken. Part of the evidence for this notion comes from what the yacht skipper Dennis Davern said, that there was an angry mood on board and that people argued all weekend long. According to Davern, Wagner's jealousy of Walken and Wood's connection was most intense on the night that Wood vanished. Apparently, Wood and Wagner got into a heated dispute, shattered a wine bottle in frustration, and then went screaming back to their cabin. This idea proposes that the debate escalated into a chain reaction that might have caused Wood to fall unintentionally or escalated into a physical brawl. A more ominous notion regarding Wood's demise surfaced: foul play. Some people thought Wood could have been a victim of an attack because of the kind and amount of bruises she had, and this theory gathered momentum when the case was reopened, and her death certificate was changed in 2012 to read drowning and other undetermined factors. Wagner was already under investigation before the captain made allegations blaming him for Wood's abduction and the apparent delay in Wagner requesting assistance following Wood's disappearance. Additional evidence supporting the notion of foul play came from a witness who stated that they could hear a woman pleading for assistance coming from the direction of the Splendor. Making her dramatic Hollywood debut on set of Rebel Without a Cause was a watershed event for Natalie Wood, who had previously worked as a child actor. Nevertheless, Wood overcame several obstacles on her way to landing the part of Judy, which brought to light the less glamorous aspects of Hollywood's workplace and its effects on her life and career. Casting Natalie Wood in the film was far from an easy process. Her public reputation as an innocent actor made director Nicholas Ray hesitant to consider her for the part, despite her early experience as a child star. The vehicle accident in which Wood and his future co-star Dennis Hopper were involved was a fortunate coincidence that changed Ray's perception of Wood. Wood used the tragedy as an opportunity to show that she could play Judy. She got the job after making a remarkable confession about being a juvenile delinquent following the occurrence. This story exemplifies the exploitative character of the casting processes in Hollywood at that era and the extreme measures that Wood took to escape her typecasting. The set of Rebel Without a Cause reflected the larger cultural and social issues of Hollywood, including the cast's complicated relationships and off-screen conflicts. As she maneuvered through her complex network of personal and professional ties, Wood encountered a demanding work environment. The already complicated situation for Wood became much more so when whispers circulated about sexual involvement and professional envy between director Nicholas Ray and co-star Dennis Hopper. Similar to the social changes happening in the 1950s, the film dealt with adolescent rebellion and anguish. Audiences connected with Wood, and her depiction of Judy, a young lady struggling with her family connections and her own identity, was a watershed moment in her career. Nevertheless, Wood found herself in the middle of a cultural struggle in this role, which mirrored the changing post-war views on gender, sexuality, and family relationships. And further layer to Wood's off-screen struggles were the film's depiction of dysfunctional adolescence and the underlying indictment of social and family expectations. Filmmakers also addressed modern themes of gender and parental power through the storyline involving Wood's character and her troubled relationship with her on-screen father. Similarly to how Wood maneuvered through the demands of Hollywood and the social constraints that women endured at the time, Judy fought for her father's acceptance as she came into her own as a woman. The complex web of circumstances surrounding Natalie Wood's untimely and unexplained death continued to thicken in the years that followed. The glitz and mystery of Hollywood provided the ideal setting for a plot that appeared to develop more with the passage of time. In this chapter, we explore what happened after Wood passed away, how her case gained new attention, and the unanswered mysteries that continue to put a pall over the life and work of a legendary actress. With the reopening of the inquiry into Natalie Wood's death, the public's interest in her life and the circumstances surrounding her tragic death reached unprecedented levels. The complex web of connections, hidden agendas, and deceit that appeared to characterize the business added to the mystery surrounding the death of a Hollywood legend. Many began to question the fragility and cost of celebrity after Wood's death, which became a symbol of the darker currents behind Hollywood's glitzy exterior. Speculation and theory about what happened that night aboard the Splendor boat persisted, with each new theory being more intriguing and unsettling than the previous. The story became worse once Robert Wagner was named as a person of interest. Wagner, who was married to Wood and was a well-respected person in Hollywood, had the potential to know the answer to the puzzle, which made the tragedy much more treacherous. Those who were supposed to be Wood's protectors may have been involved in what happened to her, or at least tried to cover up the facts, according to the report. There were several roadblocks in the inquiry, even when everyone got back on the case-solving bandwagon. Pieces of the puzzle surrounding Wood's last hours were nearly impossible to put together due to the erosion of key evidence and the fading recollections of witnesses. But the public's and media's insatiable curiosity and the doggedness of law enforcement ensured that the inquiry would not die. With each fresh piece of evidence or re-evaluation of testimony, the possibility that justice may still be served for Natalie Wood grew. Fans and admirers all across the globe felt the effects of Wood's death, which went beyond the close circle of individuals concerned. A cautionary tale about the vulnerability of individuals in the public glare and the hidden hazards of celebrity life, her story went viral. It prompted discussions on the need of openness and responsibility for Hollywood heavy hitters in times of crisis, as well as their respective obligations. Natalie Wood's acting career and status as a cultural icon persisted even as people sought explanations. Her intense performances in films such as Rebel Without a Cause and West Side Story showcased her immense talent, dedication, and profound character. Many recognized a mirror image of themselves in Wood, and her life story, characterized by a meteoric rise, deep hardships, and terrible end, became a moving narrative. That wraps up another episode. For more, navigate to the next video on your screen.